You did something good today. Maybe you helped a friend, finished a project, made a hard call nobody else wanted to make, and somewhere, quietly, a question showed up. Not was that good enough, but did someone else notice it was good enough? Here's the strange part. You already knew your own answer. You didn't need anyone's permission to know you tried your best. And yet, without that outside nod, the whole thing barely feels real. Why does your own judgment feel insufficient until someone else co-signs it? It's not a personality flaw. It's not weakness. It's something wired into you, older than your childhood, older than social media, older than language itself. And once you understand where it comes from, you'll never see your own need for approval the same way again. Think about the last time you posted something online, or sent a text you were nervous about, or made a decision at work. Some part of you was already scanning for a reaction, a like, a reply, a nod. Before anyone responded, you were already bracing for what they'd think. That bracing isn't random. Psychologists call it the looking glass self, a theory from sociologists Charles Horton Cooley back in 1902. His idea was simple but unsettling. Your self-image isn't built from the inside out. It's built from the outside in. You imagine how you appear to someone. You imagine how they judge that. And then you feel pride or shame based on a judgment that might not even be real. You're not just living your life. You're constantly watching yourself live it through eyes that aren't yours. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't a glitch in your psychology. It's a survival mechanism. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar found that the size of a species' social group predicts the size of its brain. Humans evolved bigger brains specifically to track relationships, alliances, and reputations. Being liked wasn't a luxury for your ancestors. It was the difference between being protected by the group or being left alone in the dark. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman took this further. He found that whenever your brain isn't busy with a task, it defaults to thinking about other people, not randomly, automatically. Your brain treats social connection as its baseline job, not a side hobby. And when that connection disappears, your brain doesn't shrug it off. A 2020 brain imaging study found that after just 10 hours of social isolation, people's brains lit up in the exact same region that activates when someone is starved of food after 10 hours of fasting. Loneliness isn't a mood, it's hunger. Your brain is quite literally starving for other people. So when you feel that pull to be told you're good enough, you're not being needy. You're running code that kept your ancestors alive. Now something surprising happens. Psychologist Mark Leary built on this idea with something called sociometer theory. He suggests your self-esteem isn't really about how you feel about yourself at all. It's a gauge, a fuel light, constantly monitoring whether you're still accepted by the people around you. When that light drops, you don't just feel bad, you go looking for proof you still belong. You overachieve, you over-explain, you check your phone one more time. That's not vanity. That's your internal alarm system doing exactly what it evolved to do. But this system doesn't start in adulthood. It starts a lot earlier than most people want to admit. Think about a child who grows up constantly being told they're amazing, without ever being taught how to sit with disappointment. Research links that pattern to entitlement later in life, and a self-worth that only exists when someone's watching. Now compare that to a child whose emotions were actually validated, whose feelings were named and understood. That child tends to grow into an adult who can regulate themselves internally, without needing a constant audience. Psychiatrist Dr. Timothy Jeter puts it simply: healthy childhood development builds a solidified sense of self-worth. When that mirror, the caregiver, is distorted through neglect, dismissiveness, or instability, the child's sense of value stays tethered to the outside for life. There's another layer to this. If you grew up feeling invisible, criticized, or like your worth depended on performance, you didn't just learn a habit, you learned a survival strategy. Constantly scanning for approval wasn't dramatic, it was necessary. This is where it can quietly go too far. Some signs are easy to miss because they look like normal life. Struggling to make decisions without asking 5 people first. Agreeing with everyone, even when you don't, because disagreement feels dangerous. Working yourself into exhaustion, not for the result, but for the praise attached to it. Feeling real guilt just for saying no. In clinical terms, when this need becomes extreme, researchers connect it to patterns seen in conditions like borderline personality disorder, where researchers Unoka and Vizin found that shame becomes the engine and other people become mirrors used to patch a fractured sense of self. Most people reading this aren't anywhere near that extreme, but almost everyone has a lighter version of it, running quietly in the background. What most people don't realize is that social media didn't create this need. It just industrialized it. Cyberpsychologist Mary Aiken calls it the mediated mirror. Every post is a chance to be reflected back, except now the reflection comes with a number attached. A study found that 30% of people use emojis specifically to shape how they're perceived, filling in for the tone and body language a screen can't show. You're not just communicating anymore, you're managing a performance of yourself. For teenagers, these stakes are even higher. Psychologist Susan Harter found that teen self-worth leans almost entirely on peer approval, so a bad response online can hit like a real threat to survival, not just a bruised ego. But this changes everything for adults who create things. A study of YouTube creators found the opposite effect. For adults with an established sense of self, that same feedback loop became a source of confidence, creativity, and growth. The mirror isn't inherently dangerous. What matters is whether you're the one holding it or whether it's holding you. So where's the line? Psychiatrist Dr. Shayna Feeble draws it clearly. Healthy validation works like a mirror that helps you fine-tune your perception. If someone disagrees, your foundation stays intact. Approval seeking is different. In that mode, you hand the controls to someone else, and your entire sense of okayness rises and falls based on their reaction. That's the real difference. One version listens to feedback, the other one is enslaved by it. So what actually breaks the cycle? Psychiatrist Dr. Dan Siegel suggests a mindset called COAL. Be curious about your feelings instead of judging them instantly. Stay open instead of shutting down. Accept the moment as it is without spiraling, and approach yourself with something close to love instead of constant correction. Researcher Dr. Kristen Neff adds another layer through self-compassion. Notice your own struggle without minimizing it. Respond to yourself the way you'd respond to a friend. And remember that struggling doesn't make you broken. It makes you human, alongside every other human doing the same thing quietly, in private. There's one more piece researchers keep coming back to. Psychologist Jennifer Crocker and Dr. Robert Firestone both point to something called transcendent goals. The moment you invest energy into something bigger than your own image, volunteering, creating, helping someone else, the constant need for a personal scoreboard starts to fade. You're no longer performing for applause. You're contributing to something that doesn't need applause to matter. And maybe the simplest shift of all comes from Dr. Samant Darshi, who says the real key is deceptively simple, accepting that not everyone will like you, and letting that be okay. Because here's the identity reframe worth sitting with. Dr. Lisa Firestone draws a distinction that changes everything. Self-esteem is about what you do. It's competitive and it's external, but self-worth is about who you are. It doesn't compete with anyone, and it doesn't need anyone's permission. You were never actually asking if you were good enough. You were asking someone else to feel it for you, because somewhere along the way, you learned it wasn't safe to feel it alone, but it always was. As Dr. Donna Rockwell puts it, every person carries value simply by being the only version of themselves that exists. Not because of what they produce, not because of who claps. So the next time you catch yourself refreshing, checking, waiting for someone to confirm what you already know, pause. Ask yourself what you'd believe about this moment if no one was watching at all. That answer, the quiet one, without an audience, that's the one that was always true. If this made you see your own patterns a little differently, you already know what to do next.